Good afternoon, and thanks for attending today's webinar on investment options within superannuation. We will be giving everyone a few moments to join the webinar and we'll commence shortly. Hi, my name is James Tan, and I am a member account specialist with Brighter Super. An important part of my role is guiding our valued members towards a comfortable retirement by giving them a better understanding of their superannuation account. Not surprisingly, one of the things I get asked about most is the investment option available. By the end of the webinar, we aim to give you useful information to help you understand your options. I'll be asking you some questions as we go through the webinar to help you get a better understanding of the content. I'm also joined today by Steve Lancaster, one of our member account managers, who will be monitoring your questions in the chat today. Now, Brighter Super acknowledges the traditional owners of the lands on which we are meeting and pay our respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging. We acknowledge and celebrate the continuation of the living culture that has a unique role in this region. It is important to understand that the information and examples contained in the webinars are general in nature and have been prepared without taking into account your individual objectives, financial situation, or needs. It is important when making decisions about your super options that you obtain the relevant product disclosure statement and target market determination and consider your own personal circumstances. You can access these documents and the privacy policy and financial services guide from the Brighter Super website. Today's presentation will run for about 45 minutes. Many of you have submitted questions already, which we have tried to incorporate into the presentation. You can also post questions in the Q&A feature during our presentation today, which we will aim to answer directly. Now, as mentioned, we do have Steve standing by as moderator today. Now, Steve has been with the fund for many years. He is regularly out and about in the field, providing super health checks to our members in different regions all across Queensland.
Thanks, James. Welcome, everyone. I hope you get some good value out of this webinar, and I look forward to some questions as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Now, should we have any time for questions at the end, we will try to answer as many as possible. We will also be running some poll questions through today's presentation. When the question does pop up on your screen, please click an answer that is appropriate to you. Don't worry about taking too many notes, as we will be sending this recording in the coming days. Now, before we move on to our main subject, I would like to take the opportunity to briefly explain who we are. The merger between LGIA Super and Energy Super, plus the acquisition of SPSL, has enabled us to increase our size and scale. Yet, we remain committed to investing in the personalised member services that you know and enjoy. We serve over 250 member accounts with over 30 billion in funds under management. We are also ranked in the top 5 funds in the peer super ratings for financial year 2023. Now, let's talk superannuation investments. You are able to make a number of choices about your super. One of the most important is deciding how your super is invested. The investment options you choose could make a big difference to your super earnings over time. There are various factors to consider when making your decision. They include how long your money will be invested, or your time frame, how comfortable you are with volatility, your risk appetite, the level of return you expect, your return expectations, the other investments you have, diversification, and the amount of money you are investing. One of the most useful pieces of information that a superannuation fund sends to their members is the annual benefit statement. The annual benefit statement contains important information such as the contributions that were made during the financial year, insurances that someone may hold, any beneficiaries that may be on the account. Importantly, it also provides information about the investment options that a person may be in and the investment performance over the last financial year. If you are looking for information about what investment options you are in, the annual benefit statement is a great place to start. And the best place to view your annual benefit statement is via the member online portal. We are also able to email or post a copy out to you if you are unable to access it online. So now you know where to find what investment option you might be in. Let's take a high-level view of what investment options may be available within superannuation. Some people think of their super as a single asset, but it can potentially be invested in many different assets. Most super funds offer different types of investment choices to their members. Now, investment choices is selecting which asset classes you are invested in, such as Australian shares, international shares, fixed interest, cash, or property. Investment options offered by super funds can either be diversified, so investing in a mix of different asset classes, or single sector options, investing on just one asset class. Now, diversification can be achieved by choosing a ready-made diversified option, such as a growth or balanced investment option, or by choosing a mix of single sector options, so choosing your own mix of different asset classes rather than a ready-made mix. So we've got our first poll question of the night. Do you know what investment option you are in? Great. Look like most of you actually know what investment option you are currently invested in. So assets such as equities, other known as shares, are described as growth assets. These may see volatility over the short term. The value may go up and down, but over long time periods, they generally experience higher growth. Asset classes such as cash and fixed interest are sometimes described as defensive options. They carry less risk in terms of volatility of return and potential for capital loss, but they also offer less potential for high returns. These options are generally described as low risk, low return. Ready-made diversified options are made up of different mixes of growth and defensive asset classes. Investment options vary from fund to fund. Some super funds define their investment option in terms of the risk characteristics, such as growth or balanced strategies. Other funds offer more specialist options, such as strategies that offer a socially responsible investment approach. Other funds let members have greater control over selecting the underlying investments, such as choosing mostly shares. You do not have to make an investment choice. If you choose not to, your money will be invested in a fund's default investment option. Now, for Brighter Super, that is our My Super option. Depending on your personal timeframes, risk appetite, and return expectations, this may not be the right option for you. It is important to understand that everyone's personal situation is different, and everyone's attitude to risk and return is different. For details on what investment options you may be with at Brighter Super, please check your annual benefit statement, your member online account, or simply give us a call. You may have heard the phrase, past performance is not an indicator of future performance, when hearing super funds talking about their returns. This is not just something they say to absorb themselves of any responsibility. It is a very important thing to remember. This is one of my favorite slides that we often use in our presentations. It shows the performance of 8 different asset classes over 19 years. For the purpose of this presentation, it is not the asset classes themselves that is important. It is their performance over time. As you can see, there's not just one asset class that has consistently outperformed others. The most striking feature of this chart is that over a period, different asset classes have performed differently. Some are the best performer one year, not so good the next. You may have heard the phrase, past performance is not a reliable indicator of past performance. And through this slide, we can see that what it meant by that. That is why super funds may look at taking a diversified approach to investing. By spreading the funds across different asset classes, they can balance the volatility and the returns by spreading the risk, or not putting all the eggs in one basket. The white boxes that we can see on this slide are a diversified portfolio. That is, it is a mix of all the different asset classes. We can see that by diversifying the investment options, by making a mix of the different asset classes, it has smoothed out those peaks and troughs of the single asset classes and provides a less volatile investment choice. Diversified investment options take different mixes of the single asset classes in different proportions to create mixes that may be growth or defensively orientated investment options. Another consideration that people should take when choosing their investment option is their time frame. How long will they be leaving their funds invested for? Or how long will they be invested for before they need to access them? Everyone's time frame is different, just as everybody's attitude towards risk is different. Often when I'm talking to people about investment choice, I'm asked the question, what is the best way to invest my super? And as you can probably imagine, there's not one single investment option or profile that would be a fit for everyone. In fact, there are a number of different things to consider when choosing the right risk profile for you. So, what is a risk profile, you might ask? Now, a risk profile is an individual measure of how you feel about risk and return, keeping in mind that there is always a trade-off between these two. It takes into account your tolerance to market falls, as well as your investment timeframes and desires return outcomes. Now, in a perfect world, we would all love high returns without any falls. However, generally speaking, the more risk you take, the better return you should expect over time. However, the greater chance of bigger swings in your investment value. For example, an aggressive investment is expected to generate a higher rate of return over the long term. However, it is likely to fluctuate more during times of market volatility. What this means is that your investment may generate higher returns over time. However, it will generally lose more when the market dips and produces more frequent negative return years. A more conservative investment, on the other hand, is likely to have fewer negative return years overall and may not drop as far as an aggressive investment during a downturn. However, the trade-off for less downside risk is that the returns are expected to be lower over the long term. Now, understanding your risk profile and your investment risk is important to understand to help better prepare for market movements and make informed decisions. The risk of being invested outside your risk profile is if you're invested too conservatively, you may be missing out on potential returns that you could have. If you're invested too aggressively, you may see greater falls during market instability than you are comfortable with. Both of these scenarios do not result in an optimal outcome. So it is important that you know where you sit. Now, as a starting point, you can find the investment risk profile on the Brighter Super website under the Resources tab. There are 8 questions that ask how you feel about negative returns, what actions you may take given market instability, and what your superannuation goals are. Now, after answering each question, it will then provide you with your result and some information about the types of investor you are based on your responses. When answering the questions, I would like to encourage you to consider the bigger picture. Because when someone asks us how we feel about a negative return, we're all the same. None of us likes to see a negative return. This, though, is where understanding and knowing your investment timeframe becomes relevant. Now, for example, if you are in your 40s and you're still at least 20 years away from being able to access your superannuation, a negative return may feel very different from someone in their 60s and thinking about retiring now or in the next year or two. However, it is important to note that even if you are close to retirement, your investment timeframes may be longer than you think. Retirement isn't necessarily a line in the sand where you're no longer invested in super. You may choose to keep your money in super or move it into a pension account where it is still invested. This can help to fund your retirement over the next 20 to 30 years. Now, once you have completed the risk profile questionnaire, you will be provided information around your profile to help you make an investment choice. It is important to note it does not provide a recommendation on where to invest your superannuation. It is just information to help you make that choice. If you wish to receive some help on finding the best investment for you, you can book an appointment with one of our intra-fund advisors. This type of advice is included in your fund membership, and the initial conversation is usually done over the phone and takes around 20 to 40 minutes. The advisor will do the same kind of process with you, asking you a series of questions to determine your risk profile. But what can be helpful is that they will tailor it to you and answer specific questions you may have about your scenario. Importantly, they will also make a recommendation as to where to invest your superannuation based on the results of that risk profile, and will provide you a statement of advice that so that you have written resource to refer to that, which explains about your risk profile and the investment mix that is being recommended, as well as any changes to the investment fees as part of this advice. Now, this is a great opportunity to move on to our next poll question. Have you used our investment advice service before? Perfect. It looks like a lot of you haven't actually used our service in the past there. So it is definitely a great resource to use. Now, for those who may not know, we offer a range of personal advice options suited to individual member needs. If you're looking for specific information about making contributions or investment strategies, our intra-fund advice team can help. And this is at no additional cost, as it is included in the cost of your administration fees with Brighter Super. We do also provide comprehensive personal advice services, which we will discuss in a bit more detail later in this presentation. We also have a tool on the website that models your retirement and how you're tracking towards that retirement goal. As with all modeling tools, it is based on metrics that may change over time, so we cannot use this as a matter of fact. However, it does help to provide some estimates on how you are tracking and what may be achievable. Now, depending on what your level of assets are and how much you need to fund your desired retirement lifestyle, you may only need to invest your funds in investments with low levels of risk. On the other hand, you may be the opposite and need to reevaluate your financial position, goals, or risk tolerance in order to meet your goals. For most people, we need to take on some risk to hit our long-term goals, and the retirement income calculator can give some idea of that. There is an option to toggle both your pre-retirement and post-retirement investment options, so you can play around with that kind of difference. Play around with what kind of difference that could make to your retirement income. If you are getting close to retirement, particularly if you are already over the age of 60, it may be worth getting in touch with a comprehensive financial advisor to discuss pre-retirement strategies that may assist you in meeting your retirement goals. We are able to tailor your investments to your own individual situation to ensure you are taking the right steps in finding that balance between risk and return. For this type of service called comprehensive advice, we do charge an advice fee. This provides advice to members and non-members about investments within the fund and some external investments outside of super. This advice also encompasses your spouse or partner's financial circumstances. This type of advice is usually most helpful when you've reached a milestone birthday, like 60, 65, or age pension age, or are starting to think seriously about retirement. As we've discussed before, everybody is different. So how do we achieve consistent returns for such a wide range of members? We do this by identifying investment opportunities that possess the following characteristics. Insulation from volatility. While no investment is risk-free, our diversified approach seeks to minimize the impact on market instability by including assets that have regular returns over a period of time. We are able to smooth out some volatility. Innovative market investments. Now, these include unique projects and infrastructure assets with strong market shares or with a monopoly. Airports are a great example of this. Tangible assets that benefit the entire community. Now, an example of this are the regional livestock exchanges throughout Queensland. You can see on this slide some of the real assets that Brighter Super is invested in, just in Queensland. We can see there is a lot to take into account when considering your investment options, and it can be intimidating or a little overwhelming to think about. The good news is that there is help available from Brighter Super. So what makes Brighter Super different to other super funds? It is our commitment to personal service. We have a dedicated team of member account specialists here to help you. If you would like to talk to one of our staff one-on-one for more general information about your superannuation, why not book in for a super health check? These 30-minute meetings are at no additional cost and cover a range of general topics about your super. Our team services members all over Queensland with face-to-face services and also digital channels, so you can get some general guidance on a range of superannuation topics, no matter where you live or work. And once you've got the general knowledge, the next step is to get tailored personal advice. Now, we offer a range of personal advice options suited to individual members' needs. If you're looking for specific information about making contributions or investment strategies, our intra-fund advice team can help. Booking an over-the-phone meeting with a financial advisor at no additional cost. Two of the most common questions members ask as they approach retirement are, how much super do I need to retire? And do I have enough super? A retirement health check is one of our financial advisors will help you answer these questions. As we discussed earlier, we also offer both a scaled and comprehensive personal advice service. This service takes a complete view of your financial situation to tailor advice to suit your individual needs. And it is a face-to-face meeting with one of our advice team in Brisbane and various regions over Queensland. Appointments may also be arranged by our virtual channels. The cost will depend on the complexity of the advice, and this cost may be deducted from your Brighter Super accumulation account. It is never too early to start planning for retirement. So talk to us to find out how we can help. Now, we hope you've enjoyed today's webinar and have learned some useful information to build your superannuation knowledge. Webinars like this are one of a great way to get specific information on a variety of topics. This is not the only webinar that we will have or will be holding. So go to our website to find out what is available and book into our next presentation to find out about upcoming webinars and seminars. If you have registered for any webinars, regardless if you attend, you will receive a copy of the recording the day following the webinar. On this note, it's now over to you for any questions, and I'll ask Steve to facilitate our question and answer section.
Thanks, James. Very comprehensive. We've had a few questions asked throughout the session, which have all been answered as well. If anybody has any other questions, please put it in the Q&A box, or alternatively, as we know, you can set up a meeting with our account specialists to review your super as well. Thank you, James.
Great. Thanks so much for that, Steve. Now, thanks again for taking the time to come along and then attend our webinar. So one last question before we do bring our presentation to a close. Overall, how satisfied were you with today's webinar? Now, while you are answering, I just want to thank you again for attending today's webinar, and we do hope you've enjoyed the session. And we are able to answer any of your questions. Well, this brings today's webinar to a close, and we hope to speak with you soon. Take care.